So non-sampling error. This is where the sample is collected poorly, either through biased sample or through error in measurements. So care should be taken to avoid this error. So sometimes if you're using something to measure things and maybe it hasn't been calibrated correctly, or sometimes just human error, sometimes the measurement is 34, but you reverse the numbers and write a 43. So these types of error are called non-sampling errors. So again, just trying to take care to avoid those. Lastly, there should be care taken in considering the difference between statistical significance and practical significance. So this is a major issue in statistics. Something could be statistically significant, which means that a statistical test shows that there's evidence to show what you're trying to prove. However, in practice, it doesn't mean much, or there are other issues to consider. As an example, suppose you find that a new drug for high blood pressure does reduce the blood pressure of patients. When you look at the improvement, it actually doesn't amount to a large difference. Even though statistically there is a change, it may not be worth marketing the product because it really isn't that big of a change. Another consideration is that you find the blood pressure medicine does improve a person's blood pressure, but it has serious side effects, or it costs a great deal for a prescription. So in this case, it wouldn't be practical to use it. So in both cases, the study is shown to be statistically significant, but practically you don't want to use the medication. The main thing to remember in a statistical study is that the statistics is only part of the process. You also want to make sure that there is practical significance too. Okay, another example that I can think of that comes to mind is with in a particular elementary school when they implemented this really expensive new reading program. At the end of the year, it was shown there was a statistical significance in the increase in scores for the particular students that were using the new reading system versus the old, but it was very minimal. It was like a couple points on a standardized test. And so the school district decided that although it was statistically significant, it wasn't practically significant. It didn't make sense to spend that much more money to raise average test scores by a point or two. There were other things that they could have invested that money in that would have probably made a bigger difference for students in those reading scores. Okay, so then surveys have their own area of bias that can occur. So a few of the issues with surveys are the wording of the questions, the ordering of the questions, the manner the survey is conducted, and the response rate of the survey. So for example, if you think about a survey question where you want to find out if people like your product, but in that survey question you start by saying, everybody loves this new product. What do you think? Do you like it or not? So you kind of have this bias built in versus just asking them, try the product and do you like this product or not?